Hello and welcome to another episode of Unique Professions. Recently, I had a chat with conductor and composer Laurissa Brooke, and she talked about her love of music, what influences her career, and many more things. So I really hope you enjoy our chat that we had earlier. When did you discover music?
Music was always in the home. Music was always part of our family, on my mother's side particularly. And so she was my first piano teacher. She taught piano, and she was a school music teacher. She went to university to do piano performance for a short time. And yeah, so she was already teaching my older sisters. And she says I was 2 when I started asking her to play the piano. So I was, 2.5 when I started having formal lessons with her, and she taught me right the way through. And part of her teaching was really teaching music literacy. So I do not remember a time in my life when I wasn't able to read music, which is quite remarkable. I can see now at the point that I am in my career, that's a real advantage, and it's quite a unique thing, I think, and I'm very grateful for that.
What kind of music were you listening to when you were growing up?
Yeah, lots. Well, this is an interesting question that people ask a lot, I think. We didn't listen to a heap of music, I think, because I was one of 4 children, so there was always lots of noise in the home, and my mum enjoyed a bit of quiet, but we were always making music. So we all played the piano, and we all had a second instrument. She would encourage us to play, and we'd sing, lots of singing around the piano. And there was quite a bit of choral music that we would listen to as we would go to church a lot. So there was lots of singing hymns, listening to that at home as well. There was a little bit of classical music, I suppose. I think we had one ABBA CD.
Oh, yeah.
As a kid growing up, I had one ABBA CD. And my dad's a Scottish man, so we had a fair bit of bags and Scottish folk songs, because I believe he used to serenade my mum. And and then I got into, I think, a bit of pop music as I went through my teens. Pop music of the day, early 90s, lots of femme pop, Spice Girls, Britney Spears, Destiny's Child.
So when did you decide that this love of music was going to be a career path for you?
Yeah, quite early as well, I think. I was in year 6 at school, 11 years old. I was quite ambitious, I suppose, as a child, because prior to that I'd wanted to be an Olympic athlete and the first female Prime Minister of Australia, all before the age of 10. But there was something, I think, that happened. It was probably actually, I bought my first CD, which was Vivaldi's Four Seasons, and I bought that and I listened to it over and over again at home, and I just loved it. And I'd been playing the violin for a number of years at that stage. I was starting to play in orchestras around the state. And so I think I really had this, I fell in love with orchestral music because you're, I guess, surrounded by people all in synchronicity doing something together, and there's this amazing synergy, and, your body is really engulfed by sound all around you, and I think it's somewhat addictive. And I think it was that I really fell in love with. I started composing around that time as well. And I was just really encouraged. So it was about when I was 11 when I realised that I just wanted to do music, that I wanted to be a musician, and that became really my main focus.
Your portfolio is not just classical music; it's fairly diverse. What draws different projects or collaborations?
It's quite complex question, I suppose. And I guess if I think about when my collaborations really started, or my interest in collaboration really started, was probably as a university student, as I was my parents were based in Saudi Arabia, and I was at WAPA studying, training there. And I would travel forth between Saudi and Perth frequently, many times a year. And it was quite a cultural shift, I suppose, was a very closed culture when I first went there back in 2002. And it was very intriguing to me, and the call to prayer, and quite, it seemed like somewhere completely foreign, or almost completely on the opposite end of the spectrum to the culture that I grew up in. which I don't think that way anymore, really. But I had a great desire to understand about the music systems and how the musical language of Arabia was connected to the language there, and I studied a lot, as much as I could, which was very difficult at that time because I think the internet was only just starting to, have things become available on there. And then particularly with doing so through that time in the Middle East, and I played in a chamber music group in Bahrain, which had a local Bahraini man in it. So we started to do some playing with local musicians there. And I think also we, as a society, we're also becoming more aware of cultural appropriation and things like that. So really I came to a point of understanding that in order to engage in different cultures, the best way to do that is through respect and learning from each other and a mutual sharing of talents. And I think that's really where that collaboration and the love of collaboration has really come from there. I think seeing other musicians as equals and just working together to build something that is entirely new that you would not otherwise have done on your own. It's a really special process, I think, and one that is really shaping the way the arts and music is heading in the future. I think it's the way forward, absolutely. And it's probably always been the driving factor, I think, really, in the development of music all along, the meeting of cultures and people coming together and being influenced by different sounds and sights, I suppose. And I think the way we are doing that now in the 21st century is probably changed, which is a good thing, I hope. Yeah, but it's a fascinating and challenging and wonderful process, really. I always love doing. And it's always just so nice to speak to people and work with other people. So I think when you're a conductor and composer, you can also head down in scores and in your own headspace and your own imagination. It's really, really lovely to, bring that inner world out and find ways of meeting other people in that space. Yeah, that's a really nice part of it as well.
So the Saudi traditions coming to your from Perth, how did you incorporate that into your music?
Yeah, so I probably started from a very theoretical perspective, really analysing the modes and the nuance of phrase and inflection of pitch, so where it goes up and down.
Yep.
And of course they've got an entirely different tone tuning system, so these microtones, they've got more notes than we have on the standard piano, which in choral practice and string practice as well, we don't always, we also tune with these microtones as well, so that's not necessarily only unique to Arabic or Middle Eastern music, but it's definitely a strong characteristic of that type of music. So I think that was probably one of the first aspects that I was really fascinated by, and I think trying to figure out how Western harmony can kind of support those melodic phrases. I'm sorry, I'm getting very technical. The way that functional harmony works, and I write functional music usually, it poses new challenges when you add microtones and trying to reflect the nuances of the traditional phrasing with functional harmony. It's really quite challenging, and not a lot of people are successful in doing it, and it provides endless entertainment and trying to find new ways of doing it, but that's probably the first kind of aspect that I really was honing in on, how I could bring those melodic elements in a really, I think, in a cohesive way.
Why? I know that the human condition is really important to your work and my shows in your music. Why is that so important to you?
Yeah, again, the big question, but I think it probably comes back to the fact that a lot of my early musical experiences were based around spirituality, I suppose. So I guess I've always had a very deep respect for the the art of music, and the fact that it's a very holistic experience as well, something that is very innate to human beings from very early on. I mean, we even have Neanderthal flutes that we know were found from way back when. So we were always creating music from the very, very beginning. It uses your whole body, your mind, spiritual experience, and also being able to do it both on your own for yourself and with other people. It's just, I think the actual art form has a lot of depth to it. Something that you carry through life with you. Like at the moment, I'm sort of seeing my children learn music and the struggle that comes with that. And I taught music. I taught violin for many, many years. And, you have to kind of cajole them a little bit and remind them that practice is a good thing, and they might not always see the benefits of that. But then on the flip side, I always say to my children and to my students, when particularly during their teenage years, I would say, no, please stick with it now. You put all of this work in, try and get at least to the end of high school, because then you will really have it for life. And I can't tell you how many times conducting community orchestras and choirs, meeting people who have come back to playing their instrument at some stage because they missed it, because they've realised how nourishing it is for them holistically. Like I said, mind, body, soul, and they really value having that in their lives. And people who I meet in the pub might be like, oh, I wish I kept up with that. It's just another way of really enriching everyone's personal experience and being healthy and well. We're coming through this stage of also, wellness and mindfulness and all of this. Business. It seems a bit cringe at the moment to be using those terms, but I think music is like one of the original forms of being able to maintain wellness and health. It's meditation, it's a challenge for the mind. It just covers so many things, and I think it's just so connected with who we are as human beings, like I said, from the beginning of time. And there's all the cultural aspects of it as well that I was touching on briefly before about the Arabic music. But through my study of that, I also sort of realised that the way I was trained in classical Western music is very connected. Well, if you look at the history of the instruments that we have and the theory, the harmony, the way everything works really has been influenced by so many different cultures from the past. Like our scales that we use did come at one stage from the modes in the, they say the Jewish modes, the Hebrew modes, but they're very connected to the Persian system and the Arabic maqamat and instruments from India that have come up through how they've travelled with people as a part of their essence, fibre being, culture, social, everything. And that has really, what we have today is like a gift from all of those people who have come before us in this like magical format that, it really just feels like an amazing gift from humanity that has come before us, and feel definitely that we have a responsibility to keep it alive and keep it going, and to see what comes next, really, because it's constantly evolving and changing. But it's a massive part of our identity as a species, I think, and one that we need to protect and value and honour it, really.
Now, as a composer from the traditional form of, sitting down, I can imagine you sitting down, writing a piece, or, thinking about a piece. What do you think of AI in music composing?
I actually love watching the development of AI. I think it's absolutely fantastic. There are, of course, issues being raised, which we hear about all the time, intellectual property, creative licensing, all of that sort of stuff. But I actually enjoy the conversation that the fact that these questions are even being raised at all. And to me, it comes down to value and what do we actually value. AI makes it very accessible to kind of churn out things at a fast rate of knots to fulfill a brief, for, I don't know, a commercial or something, something out. And so that sort of cheapens those sorts of aspects of the industry, I suppose, or there's potential there to devalue it, like what I was talking about with the whole humanity aspect of music making. And if we're really valuing the fact that we are human beings, we're here with this imperfect experience, and in our time, in our place, everybody's got their own perspectives and understandings and experience of the world, and if we're using that to create music or whatever it is else that AI does, and that is really what we should be valuing. That's the point. That's why we need these creative, expressions and outlets, really. And I think I'm optimistic about this, that people will come to value that more and more, because I think, post late capitalism and industrialization and all of these things have really devalued the things that are very human, really, and flawed. And, we've all been about production and trying to what is that word when things get bigger and bigger? Exponential growth, always trying to grow. And it's really, but we're coming to the point where we're like, this is unsustainable, and we can allow the machines to do that, actually, and let's just be in our own human state and value it. So but then we can also use AI as a tool. I've had lots of fun playing around with things, and we're able to create these amazing fantasy, whatever worlds, for the fraction of the cost. So it's a lot more accessible to more people to create art as well. And I think that is also very valuable. And it's not really all that different from when music started becoming digital, or, when the technology before that changed. Harpsichords got superseded by pianofortes. Like, this is, I'm really not fearful of this at all. I place trust in ourselves as humanity, as a group of human beings. We'll figure it out and we'll find a way to make it work for us. Yeah.
Well, my only concern is authenticity. I'll give you an example. I had a bit of a play around with one of the AI programs. I asked it to write me a song. I just wrote song lyrics that sounded like a band, like called Morphine. It gave some random keywords, and it came up with a song lyric, all these lyrics that matched pretty much what I asked it to. And I kind of thought, that's not really creative. And then if you put that out into the world, that's where I kind of see that creativity lost a bit.
Yeah, I think that's probably part of where AI is at. Like, it's still in its very early stages of development, I suppose, and our understanding of how to make it work. The fact that we have to train the models so that they can give us the outcomes that we want. Yeah, and I think it's like formula, isn't it? And how evident the formulas become. Truth be told, like, music is a bunch of formulas.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you literally pop songs, 4 chords mainly.
Yeah, exactly. And if you look at a keyboard, there's 13 notes, 7 white notes.
So what kind of combination can you make?
Technically, that's it. There is a limit to what you can do, but it's not. It's the creative, it's the human side of it that is the most important. And talking about globalization as well, I just feel like we just need to have this balance of, there's some good things about having access to everything worldwide and massive pop stars and seeing what's going on the other side of the world, but we also need to value people in our own society, our own communities, and attend local musicians. That's what keeps it. That's what keeps it going. It keeps the creativity, and that, I think, if you can see in your immediate surroundings what's happening creatively, then we don't need to worry about authenticity, because you can make that judgment from the real thing standing right in front of you. So, that's why I really hope that with all of this AI stuff that yes, authenticity is a problem. So make an extra effort to go to the concert hall or to go to, the local singer-songwriter nights. I think it's just, just making that more evident. I think that is what we should be valuing. Yeah.
I want to travel back in time just for a little bit. Do you remember your first composition?
My first composition?
Yep.
Yeah, I do. It was on a piano. It was a little piano thing. And, I'm pretty sure my older sister was at high school and she was given a composition assignment to do, and she came home and was writing it at the piano. And then I was looking, probably over her shoulder, and I was thinking, yeah, I can do that. And so I did. Yep. So I wrote a little song. I think she was learning 12-bar blues or the ice cream chords, something like that. But yeah, I wrote a first little piano tune and wrote it out with on manuscript paper. And I think then the next significant thing that I wrote after that, I wrote a few little things for violin and piano as well. I think we were in the car listening to Classic FM, and I was listening to, I think it was some symphony, I cannot remember which symphony it was, who composed it, and I, talking about formulas as well, was listening to it, and I was like, I reckon I know how this is written. The strings are just doing this, and the bass is doing that, so I was obviously analysing what was going on in the music. I would have been about 11 as well, and then same sister who was writing the composition as well said, no, you can't do that. And so in my head, I thought, I'm going to. And I wrote a violin concerto, actually, for strings and flute, oboe and clarinet, which was performed, I think, a couple of years later by Rebecca Glory on violin, and the youth orchestra that I was playing in at the time. It was really, I think, the first big thing that I undertook. Quite a score, and I guess I have stopped since. I've been a bit in and out with composing over the years because it does take a lot of concentrated effort, but definitely started. I think it was that violin concerto that got the ball really rolling in me saying that I was a composer. So fun times.
So that leads me now into conducting. How did that start?
Yeah, the conducting. I was chorister at church. That was my first conducting role as a 14-year-old, I think. Actually, I tell a lie, because when I was in my final year of primary school, actually, I had quite a good music teacher at school, and she was away on leave, and we had a little school orchestra, and there was a relief teacher who came in to take the rehearsals in the lead up to a performance. It was terrible. It didn't go very well with the rehearsals. I think the poor lady mustn't have been very well trained in orchestral instruments, and I discovered that different instruments were not given the right music. They were playing in the wrong key because they're transposing instruments. So we had trumpet in B flat and clarinet in B flat, and all the other instruments were in C. So I, being the person I am, went up to the teacher and said, they don't have the right music. I can write it out for you. So I wrote it out for them. I gave them all the parts, and I actually led the rehearsals in the lead up to that performance, and had quite a successful performance in the end. So that was really, I was playing at the same time. But if I think about it, that was probably my first proper conducting, proper first experience conducting an orchestra. And then I did the chorister stuff at church when I was a teenager, and then probably again next when I was at university studying doing composition, and I had to put on my recitals, and because I love orchestral music, I wrote a number of orchestral pieces, and so I conducted those as a matter of course. I did that. The lecturer suggested that I should do that. So I conducted quite a bit, and I conducted the University Wind Orchestra through that. And then I went on to Hungary to study choral conducting for a short time. And then I was conducting community orchestras and things as well when I was at university. So proper conducting really started at university, but all through, as soon as I started writing music, I guess those skills that you need to make sure that everyone's on the same page literally came into good use several times throughout my my school years.
How has your conducting evolved since it started?
Yeah, I would say in recent years it's evolved the most, I would say. We didn't have orchestral conducting as an option when I was studying in Perth here, and I don't even think when I was when I went to Hungary that I even registered that orchestral conducting was a course that you could do. I was quite composition focused at that point. But since I've been back in Perth in the last 5 years, probably longer, there's been this program run by Perth Symphony Orchestra called Women on the Podium. Yeah, run by Jessica Gethin and a woman from London, Alice Farnham, who has come out almost yearly to run these courses. And she studied in Rosśa with Ilya Musin, who is one of the great teachers of conducting technique. And so she really introduced me to my first sort of stick technique, and that sort of opened up a whole realm of learning and studying about different approaches to conducting. I still feel like there's a lot to learn there for me, but that really changed, I think, my my technique and the way I use the baton, and that's an ongoing process. I think we're always changing what we do and trying to reflect and get better. Yeah, I think I look a little bit more like an orchestral conductor these days, although I am known to have a bit of boogie on the podium conducting. But it's coming along.
Now, I'm going to throw you off your game here a little bit. I'm wondering, do you have an access to an instrument somewhere?
Right now?
Yeah.
I do not. Sitting in my car under a tree.
Ah, what a shame. I was going to get you to play something.
Oh, I can drive home.
No,
and then I'll have a keyboard.
Oh, what a shame.
I can do some Steve Wright clapping music.
Okay, sure. Let's go with that.
Did it. I'll teach it to you.
Okay, ready?
You have to do 3 claps. The pattern is 3 claps.
Yeah.
2 claps. 1 clap.
Yep.
And then 2 claps.
3, 2, 1, 2.
3, 2, 1, 2.
Got it.
Yeah.
Right.
And then they're all equal length. But the tricky thing is you have to have the same length, a rest in between them.
Okay.
So if you imagine you've got this tick going,
yep,
you're going to have 3 claps, 1 rest, 2 claps, 1 rest, 1 clap, 1 rest, 2 claps, and then another rest.
Oh, yeah?
So it goes like this. You have to listen first because there'll be a delay. Like, see? 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 1, 2, and you loop that again and again.
Okay, all right. That was good.
Yeah.
You're way better than me.
It gets good when you have, it's actually for 2 musicians, and then one of the musicians loops, like shifts that loop just one to the right, and then it creates a shift in the accents, and it creates a different groove, and you shift by 1. I think you do like 12 or 16 repeats. I can't remember how many repeats you do, and then you shift by 1 quaver every single time, and it creates a slightly different groove every time, and then as you go all through the loop, and then it comes back into synchronicity again. Just lots of fun.
Excellent. All right. What is something that you've not achieved in your career, but you'd like to?
Yeah, lots of things. Lots and lots of things. There's still so much that I want to do. I think in terms of conducting, we were just talking about that last, I haven't conducted one of our state orchestras before, or like in America they call them top tier orchestras. I think if I'm saying when, actually, that's better language to use, when I have the time and when I feel confident enough and I've got my repertoire underhand and all of that to be able to stand confidently and really enjoy that moment of conducting musicians at the highest level in a beautiful acoustic. That would be, and for it to be a really enjoyable experience for all, and to do something to create some magic, that is really something that at some stage I'm hoping I can get there, hopefully sooner rather than later, but that is really what you dream of doing, I suppose, as a conductor. And then in terms of my composition, I started writing an opera when I was at university, and it's not yet been finished because my approach to the opera has changed, to the story has changed. That is still very much something that I will finish at some stage. It's just a matter of timing and funding and all of that sort of business. But that's a big one for me as well. So to have my opera written and performed, and to conduct in a concert hall, a top tier or a state orchestra, and enjoy the experience. They're my two things.
A little insight what the opera's about?
Yeah, just a student living at home with my parents, and was still kind of attending church, and was writing this story about his life, because he led an absolutely remarkable life, and what he did is actually his mum as well was quite involved in it. Absolutely fascinating story. And since that time I have, well, actually towards the end of my time at university, that's when the internet was coming out, and information about the early church history was starting to come out, and it wasn't always in alignment with what I'd been taught. So I kind of left a few questions in my mind at that stage. But I went overseas and I left it for the time, at that time. And since then, we've got the internet. There's lots of information. The church has actually been quite started to publish things about the early history quite openly, and there's all it's a much less sanitized version of the story is available, and it's absolutely fascinating, involving brewing of hallucinogenics and polygamy and all sorts of interesting things. It's a really juicy story, actually. So I think, like I said, when the time comes, it'll be a fun opera. It'll be fascinating. That's a good story. But It's changed quite a lot in the past now that I have access to this information. Now, I don't know if you want to put that in or leave all of that out, because that's a lot about Mormon.
Fine, yeah, that's good. I'd like to see your opera one day.
Hey?
I'd like to see it one day.
Yeah, well, I also think, interestingly, since the Book of Mormon, did you see that?
I did, yes.
Did you like it?
I did. I thought it was quite clever.
Yeah, hilarious. I mean, those it's the South Park guys.
Yeah, exactly.
They were raised Mormon as well, and they're very clever. I found it quite hilarious too. I think the fact that it had such global reach and so many people loved it, that would be good for me, because it would be like, well, this is actually the real story. I mean, I think that the Book of Mormon.
You should use that in marketing as well, by the way. You should use that as marketing. It's a bit like the Book of Mormon.
Interestingly, the Book of Mormon musical was not really at all about Mormonism. I think that was a dig generally at, evangelical or just extreme. It wasn't really anything about, besides maybe Blonde Jesus. That was pretty good.
Yep.
No, I think it will certainly help with marketing, that's for sure. Didn't leave it too long.
Now, I'm not far off wrapping this up, but I've got one more question. Where do you see yourself in maybe 5 years' time in your career?
5 years' time.
Yes.
Yeah. I really would love to have my own orchestra. That's one of my goals at the moment, is to be, creative director or musical director, chief conductor, something like that, of an orchestra, so that I can have some, power over programming and things like that. I've been music director of several community groups before, but in the professional sphere, which is where I'm working now, that's something that I definitely would love to do. So I've got so many amazing ideas for excellent concerts to really engage people. So within 5 to 10 years, I'd really like to, less than 10 years, I'd like to have my own orchestra and be putting on programs and things. Yeah, and then with my composition stuff, I have just my projects that I whittle away on, and I like sort of going on a retreat to write, really. I need the time and the space. So that's probably more like a 10 to 15 year plan, is to spend more time composing. But that's it. 5 years time, my own orchestra, doing awesome programs.
Have your opera out as well?
Well, actually, the South Fremantle Power Station, that should be, in East Perth for Pier. They're turning the power station up there into a, temporary performing arts venue.
I'm going to a gig there.
Yeah, it looks so fantastic. They've
Yeah.
been talking about it for years.
Yeah.
So I'm glad that it's happening. But I'm a Freo girl. I walk past that place and I just really would love to see it turned into something,
Yep.
you know, the massive concert hall, the theatre, library, restaurants, you know, like it's huge. It should be a real cultural hub down there. Yeah, put that out into the universe. And Synergy, I hope they get onto it.
Right. We'll make sure they do.
Because we need more venues in Perth, that's for sure.
Yeah. Thank you for having a chat with me.
Oh, thanks for inviting me. It's been it's always interesting to reflect on your, you know, your practice and where you're at and things.
Thank you so much for joining me.